leadership. A trait that very few people really have. It is a trait that, however, allows those few people to lead over many and even get their name cemented in history in while they're at it. Now, today we're talking about one of the greatest leaders in history, arguably, and his name is Julius Caesar.
Julius Caesar was born Gaius Julius Caesar. He was named after his father, and he had a mother named Aurelia. He also had two sisters named Julia. He was born July 13th, 100 BC. He had dark hair, black eyes, and he was tall and rather slender for a boy. He lived in Sabura, a poor neighborhood. Even though he was considered to live in a poor neighborhood, he was considered a patrician, which is noble blood.
Now that patrician thing would come in really handy, because even though he was poor, he was still noble. I mean, he could still go out for stuff like become senate, being patrician, which he would later go on in life. It also helped him when he became a general for the military. It helped him a lot that he was a patrician, and it helped him to achieve stuff he couldn't really do. Now, as a child, he also did some other amazing stuff. He already knew 2 languages as a child, mainly because in Rome, the 2 official languages were Greek and Roman, so he kind of had to learn 2 languages. Still amazing though, it's still credible, it's still something that a lot of people have difficulty with today, nowadays. He also, as a child, was able to ride a horse with his hands behind his back, which kind of shows how much dedication he can do. And as a little kid, which kind of reflects when he gets older, he would used to ride this small chariot where he would just pretend to be a conqueror that's conquered many. He's conquered his enemies and stuff, which, if you look back, kind of reflects on what would happen when he's older. Kind of foreshadows his life in a way, and it just seems really cool. And as a kid, he also one of the most amazing things and one of the most mind-blowing things to me is that he would go in during Senate and council meetings. He would just freely watch them. They didn't mind. I mean, I don't know why. I mean, they're talking about stuff that the government's doing, and they're talking in front of a little kid, you know, a child. Now, he probably wasn't that old. He probably was like around 12 at the time, which in, you know, retrospect, you know, people considered a lot older. Adults would be like, you know, as soon as they entered puberty, you know, you know what I mean. You know, younger people were generally considered older. Younger people were considered adults back in the day. But still, as someone who's fairly young, they didn't mind, and they just talked about government stuff, government policies. They didn't even consider it a secret. They just talked in front of this little kid, and they were like, whatever. But it's, in a way, when he goes into those council meetings and he goes into those Senate meetings, it shows devotion. It shows how much, like, this guy from the start is trying to become like a leader. He wants his name engraved in history. This guy, right at the start, is like saying, I want my name engraved in history. I'm gonna make it engraved in history. I'm gonna be that conqueror. I'm gonna become a senate. And it shows real devotion and real leadership potential that you don't really see nowadays that much. Now, moving on from his childhood to his adulthood and to his careers. I say careers because he kind of has 2 aspects of his careers. One being more military aspect. He's well known for being great in the military. And 2 is his political aspect. For this section, we're focusing on the political aspect. We'll get to the main military aspects later. But the political aspect, he was younger. He was a priest for a while, which may not seem political nowadays, but back then, state and religion were really connected, and so he just he was a priest for a long time. He was working his ranks up the priesthood chain, being religious, but also being quite a political figure at the time as well. Eventually, by using 2 friends that he had, being Crassus and Pompey, which were 2 really really influential people. Crassus was influential because he was rich. However, Pompey was a former general as well as being rich. And plus, with Pompey, or Pompey as I should probably call him, because Pompey is the name of the city, with Pompey, he was really generous. He had a daughter. He gave his first daughter, Julia, to Pompey as a gift, as a present. Just be like, oh, here you go, yeah, you can marry him, you can marry her, you can marry her. Okay, go. And it just, that was normal back then. But he just gave him Julia, and the connection with him and Pompey, really got tied. Also, Crassus was just a good connection to have too, because he was also rich. And eventually, he was able to get the consulship. And as a consul, which is one of the two kind of like almost presidential power. Well, it basically divides a king into two. They're the ones who make the laws. The council is the one that makes the laws, except there's two, and they have to agree on everything. But as a councilman, he had this other councilman, notably Bibulus. And what was notable about it is that the councilmen, which were elected, by the way, elected kings, elected pair of kings that have to agree on everything. The councilmen didn't really agree with Caesar on much. In fact, almost on nothing at all. In fact, the councilmen really didn't agree with Caesar. However, Caesar had a trick up his sleeve. Caesar would go to the poor. He would go intentionally to the poor, and he would become great friends with the poor. Now, why was this a good thing? Because the poor made up most of the population. He would go up to the plebeians, which were normal, everyday citizens, which were poor, and he would talk to them. He would be nice to them. He would give speeches to them. He was a great speaker, and he would just give these great speeches to them and make them win on his side. And they just started to really love Caesar. And so much to the point where when Bibulus disagreed with Caesar on something, it was noted that he got a little basket of poop dumped on him from some random plebeian, as well as throwing stuff from other ones. So dung was literally flowing onto him, as well as other stuff, just because he disagreed with Caesar, just because the people loved Caesar so much, which kind of proves how much of a leader he is. He was smart, and he got the common people to get his back. Now, councilmen are elected for only a couple years, so after that, Caesar was kind of out, and we can transfer this more onto his military career. Now, he had other important stuff in the councilship and, well, in politics in general. The councilship was his main part. In the councilship, he also refused to, follow Bibulus. He would sometimes just make laws on his own, which was illegal at the time, and the Senate knew that, but he was so well respected, no one was going to go against it. Now, but going on to his military status, he joined the military quite young. Now it was never stated when, but just given that he joined the military around, I believe it was around 19. And the specific age wasn't really given, but around 19 he joined the military. He kind of left mainland Rome, went off to like other parts of the Roman Empire. At the beginning of his military career, he didn't really do too much. He was just stopping kind of little rebelling parts of Rome from greatly rebelling. In fact, it was noted that one time when he noticed a section of the Roman Empire was rebelling, without even the governor's call, he just got the army right there and said, "Hey, we're going to stop this rebel group from doing anything. We're going to stop the rebelling now," which is illegal. He can't take that action into his own hands. He has to go to the governor, and then the governor has to approve it. But he just did. He just saw that there was a need to stop this rebelling, and he just went in and he just took care of it. But if we're going to mention his military career, we cannot forget Gaul and how he conquered Gaul, which is a massive section which will become later known as Germany. Now, just to see how much Gaul is and how much he conquered for Rome, we're gonna see a map now.
As you can see, all that green area is what Caesar expanded upon Rome, which you can fairly tell that is a lot of land that Caesar was able to just conquer by basically by himself. Well, not by he had his army, of course, but he was able to basically conquer all of that green area, which is a lot for one general. You can imagine that must have been really impressive at his time.
Now, capturing Gaul was really, really impressive for any general at that time. Was really impressive to capture that much land from that fierce of an army. But one thing that Caesar did, which was just crazy, was that he decided to take his army and cross the Rubicon with it, which was a river which divided Italy from mainland Italy from the rest of the Roman Empire. Now, why was crossing the Rubicon kind of bad? Because it was sort of illegal. Not sort of illegal. It was illegal for a general and his army to go into mainland Italy. The reason why this was illegal was that the Roman government at the time did not want any military takeovers, and they were kind of anticipating that if a general took his general status, still in general status and all that, still in command of an army, takes his army and goes into Rome, that he probably wants something. And so they anticipated this and made it legal for a Roman general to do that. And so when they saw Julius Caesar coming in, they thought that this was an act of war, that he wants the Roman Empire for himself. And they were more right. They got Pompey, which was what we talked about earlier. He was Julius Caesar's friend. They convinced Pompey, who used to be a general, to get back into the general status, and they gave him a bunch of Roman soldiers to protect the Roman mainland, and to hopefully not let Julius Caesar come in with his army and be like, just threaten everyone to be the next king, which they already overthrew a king a few hundred years back, and they don't want another one. They want to stay Roman Republic. Now, Pompey did his best, but he ended up fleeing Rome, and he went down to Egypt. Now, Julius Caesar and his army followed him there, and now Pompey was hoping that the Egyptians would kind of take him in, and that he would just be able to hide there for a bit. Now, the Egyptians did not do that. They saw Julius Caesar as they were smart, and they saw Julius Caesar as the stronger, better, smarter, the overall better choice to help out. And so they were like, you know what, we're not helping you. So they decided to chop off his head and give it to Caesar. Now, Caesar, seeing his friend's head, was kind of mortified. He was hoping on just capturing his friend, but at the same time he was kind of relieved. He was relieved that he didn't have this an enemy anymore. Now, at the very moment that he saw the head, he was in disbelief. He just went to it was the king of Egypt, it was the pharaoh, I should say, of Egypt, that brought him the head and was like, here's Pompey's head, and he was just like, no. But then later soldiers that were in his army can tell that he was kind of relieved at the same time that his competition, basically the only defender of Rome, was kind of gone. So he marches up back to Rome, and the consulship was kind of like, oh, you know what? We'll give you dictatorship, okay? You'll be the dictator. You'll be a dictator for a little bit. Yeah. Is that good? And at first Julius Caesar was like, yeah, I'd love to be dictator. And then they were like, okay, let's elect him dictator. And so they elected him dictator. But when you kind of see a Roman army with swords and just heavily armored and heavily with the best military technology at the time, when you see that, it's kind of intimidating. You kind of just want to say, I vote for you. I'll vote for you. And so they were just scared, and they voted for him to be a dictator for just a bit, for just a little bit. Now, that did not matter because eventually they would vote on that and make him dictator for life, which shows you how scared they probably were. Now, what happened next was kind of even more of the tragic part, more of the Shakespearean part of Caesar's life, where, in fact, that's what happens next. It's kind of Caesar's play. Now, Caesar's play was based on history, but there's kind of some differences, as you can see.
What then occurred would be known as the famous Shakespearean play Julius Caesar. Very similarly, Julius Caesar's play was actually quite accurate, almost to an uncanny degree. However, there are a couple of inaccuracies. Yes, he was murdered by the Senate at the time, which just stabbed him to death. All of them just came up to him and stabbed him to death. However, unlike the Shakespearean play, he never did just sit there and take it. He actually fought back. The first man to try to stab him was Casca. That was accurate to the play, but Casca didn't actually successfully stab him. In fact, Casca was so shooken that he actually just barely missed the neck, which he was trying to stab. He was trying to stab Caesar's neck, but he just barely missed it, just grazed it. And so Caesar fought back with a Roman stylus he had at the time, which was basically a overglorified Roman pen. Now he fought back with this pen and tried to fight back with it, and he was able to stab through Casca's arm with this Roman pen, which is quite ridiculous when you think about it, but quite impressive at the same time. He was still willing to fight at the end. Now, yes, he was eventually, stabbed and killed to death, and yes, he was stabbed by Brutus, and yes, Brutus did have a connection to Caesar. In fact, a really strong connection to Caesar. That was more of a friendship kind of thing, so that's why we haven't really talked about it, because it wasn't career-wise, but he did have a really good friendship with Brutus. And similarly to the Et Brute, Et Brute was really close to what he really said, Et Brute being Latin for even you, Brutus. However, he actually did not speak Latin in his last words. He actually spoke Greek, the other Roman language that we talked about, which was at the time the other official language of Rome. He actually did not say Et Brute, and according to one of the books I have here, his last words weren't actually Et Brute, but instead Kaisu Teknon, which also means something else different, but it kind of has a similar concept. Et Brute being even you, Brutus, and Kaisu Teknon, which means even you, my child, which kind of breaks your heart kind of a little more, in my opinion. Now, when he died, he was so embarrassed of kind of dying that he wrapped his toga around his face, which, yeah, is a bit weird, but think about it, he was so shamed.
But that marked the end of Caesar's life. But it wouldn't mark the end of his legacy, for that would live on in name. Through every emperor after him, they would have the title of Caesar added on to them. Now, after his death, Brutus and some of the other conspirators tried to reform the Republic, but to no avail. For after his death, Rome would truly embrace becoming an empire, and put his son, his adopted son to be exact, Octavius, up as emperor, and eventually he would be known as Caesar Augustus, the first true emperor of Rome. Now, not many like Caesar. To this day, some people argue whether he did this all for himself or he truly did this for Rome, and he was a true patriot. But everyone can agree that there was something in him something that just made him lead many, whether it was for his own selfish desires or truly for Rome. Everyone could agree that this man was one great leader.